Hey YouTube, Bearded Bristol back with what is no longer weekend philosophy because I am not going to try to tie myself down to doing this every week anymore. I will do them as I feel I need to, and it just so happens tonight I feel I need to. The new segment, the new once in a time show may become movie quotes taken badly out of context. Let that process for a second. Now, I'm at a bit of a turning point in life as I sit here and enjoy some cheap Clan McGregor scotch on a Saturday evening. Also have my Savinelli 121 KS. I'm enjoying a little bit of Peter Stokeby Proper English, which is my new girlfriend. I have spent more time with Proper English lately than I have with anyone else. So do with that what you will. This is awfully good stuff in my humble opinion. But I had mentioned a crossroads to which I will loosely use the reference from Independence Day. Today, I celebrate Independence Day. That's right. No, it's the middle of February, nowhere near the actual American holiday, Independence Day, but this is the first weekend that my home office is back in my home, resting my elbow on my beautiful big wooden desk here. Has my large computer monitor and all of the trimmings. I had previously officed outside of my home, which was great. When I was doing that full time, that was the best of all solutions because I had some large pieces of equipment. Now I am back into my home because I no longer have one of those large pieces of equipment and the rest of it fits here. What does that mean? It doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to you guys, but to me, that's a $460 a month raise. And it puts my office in a place where I can actually enjoy a pipe while I work, which is just something kind of novel and fun, at least for now. So yeah, here I sit, and this has been a particularly grueling but enjoyable time for me as I work, part-time. I work in the great metro Omaha area, and the rest of the time I work here in my own little city. And now, for those 2 days a week that I work locally, I can just trot down the hallway to my home office, and this is just spectacular. I'm already finding out that I don't mind working on Friday and Saturday nights if I can sit and have a pipe while I'm doing it. I also have a little TV in here. May just have to do a brief office tour before this all wraps itself up. But there's something about being the master of your castle, the master of your domain. And once again, I feel as though I'm in that place. I thought it was wonderful for a time to be able to separate work from home, knowing that I had to get dressed and get professional to go down the street to my workplace. And I'm going to miss that office as well, but I will still get professional. I won't generally work in my pajamas unless under duress, which does happen from time to time. But just to be able to work from my home office now that I'm a little more mature, I have a little bit stronger resolve to get done the things that need to be done. Having to drive and mentally prepare for that type of workspace is no longer necessary for me. So, loving life, sitting at my desk here. But there is a second piece of celebrating my Independence Day that also relates to a movie quote from the same movie. When Will Smith first takes down the ship, the alien ship, and he's dragging the alien through the desert and talking about his ship being all banged up. And, you come down here trying to start something. Well, as with most of you, at least the ones that I am familiar with, this is not the only social media platform you engage in. Some of you have Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts, Twitter, all of the things. This has been a particularly tense time in American life with the recent school shooting in Florida. And I'm not going to take this down a particularly political path, but this actually, I had an engagement with a young man a week ago, and by young man, I am now aging myself because this young man was in his early 30s. And somebody who, over the years, I've gotten to know and become friends with. He lives a great distance away now, so I do not see him and have not seen him in a great many years. But that said, he and I have vastly different political views. But I've always looked at him as somebody who is well-spoken and well-thought, well-presented. So when he stated something that I didn't particularly agree with, I chose to say something to him on his Facebook page. And this is not intended to make me smart. Don't misunderstand. But I have 5 logic courses, philosophical level, both undergrad and graduate level logic courses. So the things that I said were not inflammatory. They were not an attack on him. They were just merely presenting my side of what I believed as it related to what he had posted. And I realize this is a whole lot of vague, but you just have to bear with me here because he became so angry so fast merely because I challenged what he perceived to be the only line of thinking. And this continued throughout the course of an entire day. And it's a little bit sad to me, and I'm not trying to disparage this young man because, again, I consider him to be very smart, even if I do not agree with his politics. But he allowed me, over the course of 2 comments, to get so far under his skin that he spent almost the next 12 trying to battle me and tell me that I had been insulting, that I was making fun of him, that I was a terrible person, referred to me at one point as a straight-out Nazi, which I just found laughable. But all of that aside, by the end of the evening, I was trying to soften the mood and said, well, next time you're in town or you're in the area, let's get together and have a drink and we can talk this out like rational adults. And he then sent me a personal message asking me never ever to speak to him again and that I made him physically ill. I'm still scratching my head over this. I honestly, physically ill, he says. And, first of all, no politician, in my opinion, should require so much headspace that you spend an entire day trying to refute or to make your point over something to the point where you state that you are physically ill. So indirectly, I'm already giving away my position on politics, but I just don't believe that, we elect officials to do a job, which many of them just utterly suck at, even the ones that we ourselves vote for. But to spend your life dwelling in that world is going to make you angry and unhappy. And I guess maybe it's my advanced age of 40 years old that gives me the perspective that it's just not necessary. Fortunately, politics in general move at a slow enough pace that not that much is going to change no matter how upset we get about a specific issue. But he didn't see it that way, so I was asked never to speak to him again. Fast forward to last night. I had posted something on Facebook and was having a really interesting and engaging conversation with about 15 other people from both sides of the stated political issue, which in this case was the Florida shooting. And everybody on my page was being respectful. The things that were being posted were well thought out and well stated, which is something that's hard to come across on Facebook. So I chose to engage this young man and said, hey, you may want to check this out and give your 2 cents worth. And I left it there. Well, I went to bed last night and woke up to 3 lengthy private messages to me from this individual, where first he kind of walked back that he had overreacted last weekend, followed up by why I continue to be wrong, which is fine, but he didn't have the strength of his convictions to post it publicly on my page, only privately in a message to me. Well, I responded again with a very soft response and said, have a great Saturday. To which he responded, I'm done with this, don't ever speak to me again. My head still hurts thinking about this. If we have traveled to a place where our young adults are no longer, and by young adults, I mean he's in his 30s, he's old enough to be able to have rational discussions, I think. But when we have traveled to a place where the mere thought that somebody with a differing attitude requires you to retreat to a safe space, we as a country are in a whole heck of a lot of trouble. I considered trying to respond back. Part of me, especially after a scotch, thought, oh yeah, let's just really dig in. I'm not going to do that, folks. I wouldn't seriously do that. I didn't seriously mess with him to begin with. I just find it so disheartening that, he is indicative of what we've been told about most of a generation in terms of not being willing or capable of hearing opposing viewpoints without going completely mindless. And, I start to believe that maybe he actually was physically ill. Because my opinions aren't that strong. I try to present them very well and sometimes tactically, as it were. But I am not an extremist on either side of the spectrum. I just happen to know how to present my voice in a way where it's easy to understand. But that didn't stop him from becoming extremely, extremely offended at the things I said. And then began to put words into my mouth, which I then had to, walk him back on, so to speak, and say, no, this is what I said, direct quote, not what you may have read when you saw it. But nevertheless, I'm terrified now that we are so scared of dissenting viewpoints and furthermore interpersonal communication that we get to a stage where don't ever speak to me again. I mean it. I period mean period it period. He means it. I have gotten into some pretty serious debates over the years. And some of them have caused me to not talk to people for a couple of days, or depending on circumstances and how frequently we cross paths, theoretically even a couple of months. But I just, this person never wants to see or speak to me again. And it's going to be interesting because I am friends with his entire family. So the chances of those things actually occurring, I will cross his path at some time, and I don't hold grudges. That's not what this is. If I held grudges, I wouldn't have invited him into last night's conversation where he could have debated with the group and had some allies that would have understood and maybe helped him convey his perspective. this is a little bit long and drawn out, but it's just, we're in a place, folks, in the United States and maybe worldwide for all I know, where we seriously need to reestablish the lines of communication. And, Facebook, for all of its wonderful things, I have to tell you, last night I also had an engaging group conversation with a bunch of college buddies about when we used to gather in Omaha at a local bar for for line dancing lessons on Saturday nights, and we had an hour's worth of memories that we shared, and that's what we all thought Facebook was. Unfortunately, now it's a cesspool of bad political commentary and slander, lies, the works. Oh, and the celebrity crap, but I don't even, scroll past. But, Facebook should have opened up an opportunity for us to really engage with people on an intellectual level beyond just what we had for supper tonight, or in my case, talking about the glory days of college and country dancing, which is something I just never really got into, but going with friends made it fun. And reminiscing with them last night was just a riot. So that's the benefit of all of this social media stuff. And then you get the flip side with somebody who is so isolated and insulated inside of their own echo chamber of people that believe them and look to them for their opinions, that when somebody like me approaches with something that's not only in disagreement, but I feel anyway well said, well stated, it caused him to go into a tailspin. And it's not just him. We've all heard the stories, the anecdotes, the rumors, the this and the that. We have to figure out how to teach people, again, how to engage in civilized debate. They always used to say, don't talk politics or religion in a bar. And it's true, but I tell you what, some of the best political discussions I've ever had, and religious for that matter, have come within the bar setting. In part because you are sitting next to that person and you actually have to look them in the eye and engage them in a meaningful way. Especially if you're going to try to win the argument and not just piss them off. But that is a lost art. Now we retreat behind our keyboards where we can say and believe anything we want with no factual proof. And as long as we're in an echo chamber of people that agree with us, we don't ever have to be offended by anything. Or if we are offended, we can fire back something else against that person without ever seeing them or knowing what they truly believe. It's a brave new world, and I'm not sure. I have always hung out with older than myself people, so I don't consider myself to be a typical 40-year-old, as it were. Most of my friends are in their 60s, and I truly appreciate that generational mindset because they don't understand, most of them, or care about what's happening on social media. Partly because of my occupation as a graphic artist, doing websites, and a marketer, I have to stay in tune with the social media world. I don't necessarily have to participate to the level that I do, but I have to stay in tune with how it works and what it means. And, now we're moving into a generation behind me that lives in the Twitter sphere and in the Facebook realm, and heaven forbid Snapchat, which just makes zero sense to this guy. But that's why I've been refer to myself as a curmudgeon. This has been a bit of a rambling diatribe. But I think, it's something to bear in mind is that we do have to engage those in their 30s and 20s, early 30s and 20s, first of all, in a different way. And not that they have to be babied, but we need to be able to approach this from the sense that they may have never actually been challenged verbally on anything, or even theoretically, typing on a keyboard, because they can isolate so quickly with people that only agree with them that opposing viewpoints are going to be rebuked, and not rebutted, mind you, but just straight tossed out as you are wrong, no matter what proof you bring to the fight. No matter how smart you may be or knowledgeable on a given subject, if they don't believe it, they don't have to. And I'm not even sure where to go with that. And golly, I'm having a hell of a time keeping this pipe lit. I'm going to wrap this up because I feel like I've said everything I need to say roughly 3 times. But as it loosely relates once again to Independence Day, I am now independent of this young gentleman. Because if he does not want me to speak to him again, I will not do so, nor will I bother reading most of the things that he splatters on his wall, no matter how absurd they may be. So I guess from that standpoint, I have gained a little bit of independence and certainly some free keyboard time that I can devote to things that maybe make me money, which would be epic. But anyway, keep that in mind, all you old pipe smokers out there that are a little codgerly in your own way. Kid gloves may be necessary dealing with that 20 or young 30-something moving forward. I hate it to be that way, and not all of the youth are like that. My nephew, my nieces are all very willing to have open, honest discussions and debates. So there's a great many that are willing to listen and do it, but there are those that have never had to and are simply unwilling to open their minds or their hearts to something that they don't already believe. And that's going to make it a very challenging future for a lot of us. So anyway, that was a bad movie quote taken wildly out of context. So enjoy that very loose reference, those very loose references to the Independence Day movie. But hey, today I celebrate my Independence Day in my office with one less really challenging Facebook friend. So to that, I have a sip of scotch. Gonna enjoy the rest of my pipe,